whether the loser could be compensated. Next slide, beta. Whether the loser could be compensated. As you can see on the slide, it does not tell us that the loser should actually be compensated. It is argued that whether compensation should be provided, in what manner, all these are moral issues. So all the three, Calder, Hicks, and Saitoveski, have talked about compensation principle. Even Calder has talked in detail about that the person who is gaining out of, let's say, a situation should actually compensate a loser. But then it never mentions that how much that compensation should be, what manner that compensation should, should be transferred, in what manner, and it is argued that whether compensation should be provided and in what manner, and all these are, as I said, are moral issues. Moral issues in the sense they have left it on the conscience of the people that if you feel guilty enough to gain something and you think that the loser deserves a little bit of what you have gained, then you can give. Otherwise, it's a moral issue. So, social welfare function of economics challenge that compensation concept. Next slide. In the next slide, you will see that another problem with the company, this is all, as I said, social welfare is actually a criticism of this. Another problem with the compensation criteria is that they only compare between a few alternatives to tell us what is the most desirable of these alternatives. But they do not tell us the state that achieves the maximum possible welfare. So some economists thought it was first suggested by Abram Bergson in 38 that the problem with the compensation criteria could be solved by considering the social welfare function. So in a way, you can say that it was in 1938, Abram Bergson gave the concept of social welfare function. And it was a kind of an alternative to what was happening at that time. And that is the compensation criteria ka ek tarike se, it was a, what can you say, it was an alternative to compensation principle. Uh, uh, yes, ऊपर वाला अगर 3-4 लाइन देखें, then you will find problem with the compensation is that they only compare between a few alternatives to tell us what is the most desirable of these alternatives, but they do not tell us the state that achieves the maximum possible welfare. So alternative 3-4 बता देंगे कि ये ठीक रहेगा, ये ठीक रहेगा, but they never tell us that which one is better, best, or which one will actually achieve the maximum possible welfare. Next slide. I will talk about Bergson a little bit. No, just go back, not this one. Go back in the previous slide. Bergson वाली slide पे ही रहेंगे because there is the diagram जो इसमें बनाना है अभी आप लोगों के लिए difficult होगा, so I will not take up that diagram right now. Yes, ये इसी को लगे रहने देना. Let's write a little bit about Abraham Bergson. In the Pareto optimality, please start writing. In the Pareto optimality model, welfare economics was explained in terms of better off and worse off situation. Was explained in terms of better off and worse off situation. Better off and worse off situation. Whereas in compensation principle, the idea to compensate the loser gained the ground. The idea to compensate the loser gained the ground. The so-called Bergson-Samuelson social welfare function, BERGSON, Bergson dash Samuelson Bergson Samuelson social welfare function was first introduced in 1938 by Abram Bergson by Abram Bergson and subsequently developed by Paul Samuelson. Subsequently developed by Paul Samuelson. The purpose of the purpose of the model was primarily to clarify the work of Pareto. The purpose of the model was primarily to clarify the work of Pareto and the studies which belong to the new welfare economics and the studies which belong to new welfare economics, comma, the function developed by Bergson and Samuelson, the function developed by Bergson and Samuelson also sheds light on the close connection between old and new welfare economics. On the close connection between old and new welfare economics. Between old and new welfare economics. And above all, on the fact that social welfare requires, and above all, on the fact that social welfare requires value judgment. That social welfare requires value judgment. वैल्यू जजमेंट को अंडरलाइन कर लीजिएगा. सोशल वेलफेयर रिक्वायर्स वैल्यू जजमेंट. अंडरलाइन दिस लाइन. In order to be defined. In order to be defined. Abram Bergson belonged to Harvard. ब्रैकेट में लिख लीजिएगा टाइम पीरियड 1914 to 2003. And Paul Anthony Samuelson, that's the full name of Samuelson, Paul Anthony Samuelson, was also there in Harvard. Bracket में लिखिए 1915 to 2009. Samuelson also belonged to Harvard, period 1915 to 2009. So this is a backdrop of welfare economics, and from where these two have started working together. Now Bergson का लिए और एक info लिख लीजिए. Bergson was in Harvard because, and of course he was an American economist. Okay, now let's write about the paper in which he mentioned this. In 1938 paper, Bergson defined and discussed the notion. In 1938 paper, Bergson defined and discussed the notion of an individualistic social welfare function. Of an individualistic social welfare function. Of an individualistic social welfare function. Individualistic social welfare function. Uh, the paper delineated necessary marginal conditions. The paper delineated 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 necessary marginal conditions for economic efficiency. For economic efficiency, यहाँ से एक short note आएगा. What is economic efficiency? Underline कर लीजिए. I will deal with this later on. Economic efficiency relative to, 3 bullet point लिखिएगा. Relative to first, a real valued ordinal utility function of individual. Real valued ordinal utility function of individual. Ordinal utility function of individual for commodities. Ordinal utility function of individual for commodities. Second, labor supplied. And third, other resource constraints. In doing so, it showed how welfare economics, in doing so, it showed how welfare economics, in doing so, it showed how welfare economics just give me 1 minute, girls. Okay. In doing so, it showed how welfare economics could dispense with interpersonally dash comparable cardinal utility. Interpersonally dash comparable cardinal utility. Either individually or in the aggregate. Either individually or in the aggregate, with no loss of behavioral significance. With no loss of behavioral significance. With no loss of behavioral significance. इसको बहुत easy language में अगर आप समझेंगे, what is social welfare function? This is the backdrop of all these things. Actually, social welfare function was, or rather welfare economics, did not get a very welcomed view in Harvard. So social welfare function of Samuelson was a legend at that time when Bergson was trying to give this model. And as you can see that Samuelson was also a faculty in Harvard at that time. So social welfare function, the idea which the Bergson gave to Samuelson really, hit a note, and they both started working on the model. So if you can see, in a very easy language, if you want to understand what welfare or social welfare is, एक paragraph और लिखिए. Then I'll explain. In welfare economics, a social welfare function is a function. In welfare economics, a social welfare function is a function that ranks social status. That ranks social status. ब्रैकेट में लिखिएगा alternative complete description of the society, 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 bracket close, as less desirable, more desirable, or indifferent, as less desirable, more desirable, or indifferent for every possible pair of social status. As less desirable, more desirable, or indifferent for every possible pair of social status. And this is a social welfare function. Social welfare function actually divides the economy, sorry, a society divides the society into three different layers or three different segments in which the social status is less desirable, in which the social status is more desirable or indifferent for every possible pair of social status. आगे लिखिए social welfare system provide assistance to individual and families. Social welfare system, this is the applied part. Social welfare system provide assistance to individuals and families through programs such as healthcare, through programs such as healthcare, unemployment compensation, housing assistance, through programs such as through programs such as healthcare, unemployment compensation, and child care assistance. So these are the applied part where this is actually used, social welfare. Now, how do you measure social welfare? A new approach, the social welfare function approach. A new approach, the social welfare function approach to welfare measurement. The social welfare function approach to welfare measurement by gross domestic product, by gross domestic product is developed and applied to the integrated is developed and applied to the integrated socio-ecological and economic system. Is developed and applied to the integrated socio-ecological and economic system. Bracket में लिखिएगा SEE, socio-ecological and economic system. This allows the measurement of development. This allows the measurement of development or social welfare through the adjustment of GDP. Through the adjustment of GDP. Through the adjustment of GDP. So this is the measure of social adjustment. No, sorry, social welfare. Okay. Further, social choice theory addresses a wide range of social choice theory addresses a wide range of decisional and judgmental problem. Social choice theory addresses a wide range of decisional and judgmental problem. Social choice theory addresses a wide range of decisional and judgmental problem, comma, dealing with a variety of procedures, dealing with a variety of procedures, dash, from voting to making normative social assessment, from voting to making a normative social assessment. All the social choice problems, all the social choice problems have the shared feature of relating, have the shared feature of relating social, social को double, uh, it has to be in a double quote, social or group assessment to the values, social or group assessment to the values, comma, preferences, choices, or some other characteristic of the respective individual, or some other characteristic of the respective individual who form, or some other characteristic of the respective individual who form, who form collectively that society or group, that society or group. इसका मतलब एक इसका सिंपल मतलब ये है, सोशल चॉइसेस जब आप करते हैं किसी तरीके की, तो इतनी सारी चीजें आपके दिमाग में होती हैं जो ऊपर लिखी हैं, वैल्यूज, preferences, choices, or some other characteristic of the respective individual who form the collective group or that society. जैसे आपके दिमाग में सोशल चॉइसेस के लिए, सोशल चॉइसेस मीन और सोसाइटल चॉइसेस जितनी भी आप करते हैं, you want to mingle with some group, you want to mingle with not with some group, you want to go ahead and have a marital alliance with some group. If you don't want to, because marital alliance is generally in India is not with the individual, it has to be within the group itself. So if you're going ahead and having a marital alliance with a group, or if you're on shunning that shunting that idea of a group, and you're going ahead and having a marital alliance, let's say not with a group, but rather you're choosing an individual, or if you are having a, let's say you're going for a voting, and even that voting has all these say, characteristics imbibed, or you have all these characteristics at the back of your head when you are choosing a candidate, your preferences, your choices, your values, your some other characteristic of the respective individual, which may be because on the basis of a caste or a gender or a creed or a sex, or it can be on the basis of a color also. But depending upon this, as we are seeing in the recent American election, a lot of black and white thing going on. So in India, that black and white thing is also there, but it's racial. It's there, but it's in terms of groups. So the decision, when the people take decision in front, it's in groups. You're not looking at individual. Then you don't care about the individual. Then you care about the group. Then you are not taking the identity of individual. You are taking the identity of a group. And when you take the identity of a group, your social welfare function or your social welfare, the concept of the social welfare, hence it's written that it's a moral judgment. It's a very judgmental concept. And the three criteria on which that वो टेक्निकल पार्ट था उसका, जो मैं डायग्राम में समझाऊंगी आपको, बट लिटरली इसको कैसे अप्लाई करते हैं, those are based on these informations or these information that has been coming to you. नेक्स्ट लाइन में लिखिएगा, any procedure of social choice make use of some type of information and ignore others. Any procedure of social choice make use of some type of information and ignore others. For example, again voting का ही example है social welfare में. Any procedure of social choice make use of some type of information and ignore others. For example, the method of majority decision. The method of majority decision. For example, the method of majority decision concentrate on people's vote. Concentrate on people's vote, and by implication on their preferences. ठीक है, आपने एक इकट्ठा कह दिया कि इसको वोट करना है, ये आपकी कास्ट है, ये आपकी कास्ट का आदमी है, प्लीज गो अहेड एंड वोट इट. अब इस केस में क्या होता है, इसमें सोशल का जो चॉइस की गई, इट्स अ सोशल चॉइस. अब इस केस में हुआ क्या, नेक्स्ट लाइन में देखिए, लिखिए, but it pays no direct attention to a variety of other kind of information. But it pays no direct attention to a variety of other kind of information. और भी बहुत इंफॉर्मेशन आपके पास आ रही है उस इंडिविजुअल को लेके, but then you don't pay attention to a variety of other kind of information, comma, such as their personal character, their social standing, their personal character, their social standing, their prosperity, or even the intensities of their preferences. Or even the intensities of their preferences. ये सब information आएगी आपके पास, but then you tend to choose to ignore all this, and you will go ahead, and generally people go ahead with a mob mentality, which means a social choice is being made based on these concepts. जो ऊपर दिया हुआ है, not on the information which is coming as far as individual goes. So this is a social choice, और ये hamper करेगा social welfare को. Okay, now change the line and again write. The same can be said about principles of social judgment. Social choice एक concept है, एक है social judgment. The same thing can be said about principles of social judgment or of normative social decision. Or of normative social decision. Okay. Their respective informational basis, their respective informational basis, their respective informational basis qualify the nature of the judgment, qualify the nature of the judgment that can or cannot be made. Their respective informational basis qualify the nature of the judgment that can or cannot be made. The informational basis can be explicitly stated, or implicitly characterized. The informational basis can be explicitly stated. बहुत ही clearly explicit means when you come out and obvious. Explicitly stated or implicitly characterized. Implicitly means hidden, or implicitly characterized, comma, by the axiomatic, axiomatic, axiom से लिया है, axiomatic requirement imposed on each respective approach. Axiomatic requirement imposed on each respective approach. So this is how the social choice and the social judgment works in the social welfare function. This happens that the people tend to cling to the choices. A social choice जब करते हैं तो ज्यादातर वो चॉइसेस करते हैं जो कलेक्टिव होती हैं, उससे वो अलग नहीं होना चाहते हैं, बिकॉज देन दे विल बी आउट ऑफ द ग्रुप, सो दे डोंट वांट टू डू दैट। अब इसके टेक्निकल पार्ट पे आइए। ये तो इसके बैकड्रॉप थी जो आपके लिए था, जिससे आप थियरी समझ सकें सोशल वेलफेयर फंक्शन की, इस ये बैकड्रॉप है। अब इसका टेक्निकल पार्ट पे आइए, तो लिखिए सोशल वेलफेयर फंक्शन मॉडल, डैश करके लिखिए द मॉडल। As I said, that initially social welfare function is a criticism of the compensation model of Hicks and Calder. So उसको आपको आगे बढ़ाना है मॉडल में। इसमें लिखिए each economic unit wants to maximize its welfare. Each economic unit wants to maximize its welfare. ये टेक्निकली ये मॉडल ऐसे बना हुआ है। 3 बुलेट पॉइंट में लिखिएगा। फर्स्ट, कंज्यूमर वेलफेयर इज इक्वल टू मैक्सिमाइज यूटिलिटी। कंज्यूमर वेलफेयर इज इक्वल टू मैक्सिमाइज यूटिलिटी। प्रोड्यूसर वेलफेयर इज इक्वल टू मैक्सिमाइज प्रॉफिट एंड फैक्टर वेलफेयर इज इक्वल टू मैक्सिमाइज इनकम। तो 3 है, कंज्यूमर मैक्सिमाइज करना चाहता है यूटिलिटी, प्रोड्यूसर अपने प्रॉफिट, और फैक्टर वेलफेयर मैक्सिमाइज इनकम। ठीक है। अब नीचे एक लाइन लिखिए, इज द सम ऑफ मैक्सिमम इंडिविजुअल वेलफेयर इज इक्वल टू मैक्सिमम सोशल वेलफेयर। इज द सम ऑफ मैक्सिमम इंडिविजुअल वेलफेयर इज इक्वल टू मैक्सिमम सोशल वेलफेयर। क्या एक इंडिविजुअल का वेलफेयर सोसाइटी का वेलफेयर करेगा? सोशल, मैक्सिमम सोशल वेलफेयर में रिजल्ट करता है। तो इसके लिए पहले हमें इंडिविजुअल की यूटिलिटी को लेना पड़ेगा और फिर हमें कलेक्टिव उसको एक सोशल वेलफेयर में लेना पड़ेगा। दैट इज, इसको एक फॉर्मूला में लिखिए, दैट इज समेशन यू आई, यू कैपिटल रखिएगा, आई स्मॉल रखिएगा। समेशन यू आई इज इक्वल टू एस डब्ल्यू, दोनों कैपिटल होंगे, सोशल वेलफेयर। तो क्या एक इंडिविजुअल, यू आई मीन्स इंडिविजुअल, यूटिलिटी इज इक्वल टू सोशल वेलफेयर, और ब्रैकेट में लिख दीजिए I is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4 till n. So ये actually ये this is the question, is summation of the individual की utility, जितनी भी individual utility है उसका summation क्या social welfare होता है और maximum social welfare होता है, not just any. This is what social welfare function tries to answer, जो कि compensation principle ने नहीं किया था. So welfare economics is based on, write 3 points: normative economics, equity principle and value judgment. तीनों पे बेस्ड होती है, नॉर्मेटिव इकोनॉमिक्स, इक्विटी प्रिंसिपल एंड वैल्यू जजमेंट। ये मॉडल है, ये 3 चीजों पे बेस्ड है, नॉर्मेटिव इकोनॉमिक्स, इक्विटी प्रिंसिपल और वैल्यू जजमेंट। अब पहले आगे बढ़ने से पहले मुझे बता दीजिए, डू यू नो व्हाट इज नॉर्मेटिव इकोनॉमिक्स? डू यू नो व्हाट इज नॉर्मेटिव इकोनॉमिक्स? उससे कोई फायदा नहीं होगा आगे बढ़ने से, इफ यू डोंट नो व्हाट इज नॉर्मेटिव इकोनॉमिक्स। What is normative economics? Then I'll give you equity principle. नहीं पता है तो यही लिख लीजिए। लिखिए, normative economics aims to determine what should happen or what ought to happen. What should happen or what ought to be normative economics, और what ought, यहीं पे यहाँ पे full stop है, to be normative economics, what ought to be, sorry. So aims to determine what should happen or what ought to be. Normative economics expresses ideological judgment about what may result in economic activity if public policy changes are made. Expresses ideological judgment about what may result in economic activity if public policy changes are made. So normative economics ये होती है जब हम ideologically value judgment देते हैं कि जो पॉलिसी चेंजेस हो रहे हैं इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी में ही, आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट ऑल द सोसाइटल चेंजेस, जस्ट इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी में ऐसा कोई चेंज जो कि पब्लिक पॉलिसी में का हुआ है, what effect it will have, what should happen or what ought to be. Like as I give you example, have given you already, public smoking रोकी गई तो ये वैल्यू जजमेंट इसका है, आइडियोलॉजिकल जजमेंट है दैट इट इज गुड, it's good, it's right because it will save lives and it will save other people life. So this is normative economics. When you want to give the judgment, when you want to give judgment, ideological judgment, what is what ought to be, कैसी दिखना चाहिए, कैसा होना चाहिए. If when we talk about gender equality, we are talking in terms of normative economics. We want gender equality in terms of what ought to be, what happens, what should be. So this is normative economics. When you want to talk about right and wrong. जबकि पॉजिटिव इकोनॉमिक्स जो होती है उसको लिखिए, दो तरीके की इकोनॉमिक्स होती है. पॉजिटिव इकोनॉमिक्स इज बेस्ड ऑन फैक्ट एंड कैन नॉट बी अप्रूव्ड और डिसअप्रूव्ड. ठीक है. अब नॉर्मेटिव होती है वैल्यू जजमेंट पे, ये सही है तो किसी ने कहा जो सिगरेट स्मोकिंग होगा वो कहेगा ये तो बिल्कुल ही गलत पॉलिसी है, ये तो आपको कैसे लग रहा है ये सही है, कि भाई मेरा तो ये पर्सनल राइट है कि मैं स्मोक करूं, तो आपको क्यों लग रहा है कि स्मोकिंग गलत है भाई. तो अब यहाँ पे वैल्यू जजमेंट, आपका वैल्यू बिकॉज यू डोंट स्मोक, तो आपका वैल्यू जजमेंट है कि नहीं नहीं ये पॉलिसी तो बिल्कुल ठीक है. So there is a normative economics have a higher chances of controversial issues generally taken because it's based on value judgment. Some people will say this is right. Some people, for others, it's for you it's wrong. For others it's right. So it's a normative economics. Whereas a positive economics is a different kind of economics. It is based on facts that you cannot approve or disapprove. Fact is fact. Cannot disapprove or approve. You cannot change fact. So when people state fact and want to build up the model on that, it's based on positive economics. But as I said, that welfare economics is based on normative economics. And that is why welfare economics is a very, very dicey thing, because in that the value judgment इतना ज़्यादा हो जाता है कि कभी-कभी आप personal freedom, individualism, इन सब चीज़ों को you jump over that and you just want to give a judgment. You're very quick in we are very quick. We all are very quick in giving a judgment. This is right. This is wrong. This should not happen. For when you are saying all this, you are actually speaking in terms of normative economics. So that is normative economics. Then there is a second term which I have said here, on which welfare economics is based upon, is equity principle. वैल्यू जजमेंट तो आप समझ ही गए होंगे क्या कॉन्सेप्ट है. इक्विटी प्रिंसिपल लिख लीजिए क्या है. इक्विटी प्रिंसिपल एक्चुअली टैक्सेशन वगैरह में ही लगा हुआ है. सो इक्विटी प्रिंसिपल इज ऑल अबाउट इक्वालिटी ओनली. सो लिख लीजिए, equity proceeds in the principle, equity proceeds in the principle that a right or a liability, that a right, R-I-G-H-T, that a right or liability should, as far as possible, that right or liability should, as far as possible, be equalized among all interested. That a right or liability should be, as far as possible, be equalized among all interested. That is, every person should have जितना हो सके equalized right. So that is a principle of equity. The principle of equity and principle of equality दोनों अलग अलग चीजें हैं, उसको मिक्स मत करिएगा. Equity and equality, although principles they sound almost synonymous, but they are not. So equity means, as I said, that everyone has the same right, same platform पे ले आइए सबको. दैट इज इक्विटी. इक्विटी, फेयरनेस, जस्टिस, ये सब इंटरचेंजेबली है, ये इंटरचेंजेबली सब यूज होते हैं वर्ड्स. सो नॉर्मेटिव इकोनॉमिक्स, वैल्यू जजमेंट, इन तीन चीजों पे आपका बेस्ड है वेलफेयर इकोनॉमिक्स. उसके बाद इसमें जो पढ़ा जाता है वो आपने पढ़ा है पेरेटो. सो पेरेटो को यहाँ लिख लीजिए, पेरेटो ऑप्टिमैलिटी यहीं पे आता है सोशल वेलफेयर फंक्शन के बाद. इस वाले कॉन्सेप्ट को समझाने के बाद पेरेटो का कॉन्सेप्ट समझाया जाता है जो मैंने आपको दिया है. सो यहाँ आंसर में लिखिएगा पेरेटो पहले, पेरेटो. फिर अब लिखिए SWF. SWF में आपने जो ऊपर लिखा है, अब मॉडल लिखिए. It is a function of the utility level of all individual in society. It is a function of the utility level of all individual in the society. क्योंकि हमें समेशन निकालना है UI का कि इक्वल टू मैक्सिमम सोशल वेलफेयर, तो हम क्या करेंगे, इट्स अ फंक्शन ऑफ द यूटिलिटी लेवल ऑफ ऑल इंडिविजुअल इन सोसाइटी. It brings in optimization of consumption welfare also. It brings in optimization of consumption welfare also. It is based on 3 points. Again, it is based on 3 points. First, value judgment of each individual. वैसी सोसाइटी बन जाएगी, जैसे लोग वैल्यू जजमेंट करेंगे वैसी सोसाइटी बनेगी. If the people are very harsh and cruel with each other in terms of let me go back and let me give you an example of value judgment of each individual. Although it's not economic activity, it's a social activity, but I'll give you a judgment. As the sati pratha was very much normalized in India. It was a normal ritual. It was a normal ritual which was normalized in India. The way the dowry system is normalized in India. These are all wrong. This is all, equity level pe, equality level pe, her level say, normative level say it's wrong. But it is normalized in India. It's normal. You don't shun the marriages. You don't, say that no, we will not go into the marriages which is happening in this way, or we will not go into the elaborate and अच्छी इतनी बड़ी marriages में हम नहीं जाएंगे. No, no, no. You all go, and we all go, and we all want to enjoy. We don't care about from where the money is coming from. ये सब हुआ कैसे? We just want to have a good time. जब दूसरे की शादी होती है, तो क्योंकि इसका रीजन ये है कि हमारा जो वैल्यू जजमेंट है वो ये कह रहा है कि ये नॉर्मल है. We have a big fat wedding. We are supposed to have a big fat wedding. This is the way it works, and this is the normal thing. So normalization जब किसी चीज का हो जाता है, उसमें वहां पे प्रॉब्लम होती है. सो सोशल वेलफेयर वहां पे हैम्पर हो जाएगा. वहां पे फिर उसका जो एंड प्रोडक्ट निकलेगा वो अच्छा नहीं निकलेगा. लाइक जेंडर इन इंडिया, अब ये इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी है, बिकॉज अगर आप जेंडर को एक हाफ 50% ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन को जिस तरीके से मार्जिनलाइज करके रखा हुआ है, उसका वही नतीजा है. उसको उसको कोई वैल्यू नहीं है. इसीलिए उससे देखिए कितनी चीजें हैं. मेटर्नल मोर्टेलिटी है, उससे रिलेटेड इन्फेंट मोर्टेलिटी है. पीपल वांट टू किल अ गर्ल चाइल्ड. व्हाई डू पीपल वांट टू किल अ गर्ल चाइल्ड? Well, for a very simple reason, they don't want to take the responsibility and the burden. और उसके आगे कितनी चीजें हैं. It's good to kill. वो कहते हैं let's kill. क्या जरूरत है इसके लिए भाई? And why is sun so celebrated? This is all value judgment. The social तो उससे क्या हुआ, ग्रुपिज्म ने जो आपको बता दिया तो उससे वो नॉर्मलाइज हो गया. अब आपको अगर सुनने को मिलता है that somebody is killed a daughter और ऐसा नॉर्मल, बहुत बार सुना है. क्या करें, नॉर्मलाइजेशन इन द सोसाइटी. आप वो रेप कल्चर भी नॉर्मलाइज है पूरा. तो ये इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटीज इससे रिलेटेड है, बिकॉज दिस half of the gender, that is 50% of the population is reeling under this condition. तो वैल्यू जजमेंट इसलिए सोशल वेलफेयर फंक्शन बना ही इसलिए था. बट इट इज बिग क्वेश्चन इसमें है, फिर भी मैं उठा रही हूँ क्योंकि वैल्यू जजमेंट ऑफ ईच इंडिविजुअल बहुत है. हर इंडिविजुअल का वैल्यू जजमेंट अलग होता है. दूसरा है रिफ्लेक्टेड इन कंजम्पशन. अब एक सिंपल सी चीज आपको बहुत शुरू में बताई थी, इकोनॉमिक्स में पढ़ाया गया है, मोर इज गुड. द मोर यू हैव, मोर यू वांट. It's good. More is good. Less is bad. So more is good, less is bad, which means I want to maximize everything I can in my life. Whatever. चाहे हमारे पास कितना भी चीजें हो, I want to have more of that. अगर मेरे पास आज फोन है तो I want एप्पल का फोन, अगर नहीं है तो I want more, I want more, and I want more, and I want more. तो इट रिफ्लेक्टेड इन द कंजम्पशन, मीनिंग आपका कंजम्पशन का जो पैटर्न है वो तो बढ़ता चला जाएगा, चेंज होता चला जाएगा. सो वेलफेयर का कॉन्सेप्ट इसमें जरा मुश्किल है, क्योंकि कंजम्पशन में जब रिफ्लेक्ट होगा तो आप तो मैक्सिमाइज करेंगे अपनी यूटिलिटी, तो उसमें इसलिए रिफ्लेक्टेड इन कंजम्पशन. बट कितना वो हो पाता है, ये सोशल वेलफेयर फंक्शन के क्रिटिसिज्म है सारे. थर्ड देखिए, चॉइसेस आर ट्रांजिटिव and consistent. Choices are transitive and consistent. तो इसमें लिखिए SWF is equal to SWF is equal to W. ब्रैकेट में लिखिएगा U1, U2 till UN. So choices are transitive and consistent. Choices are transitive. Transitivity की theory पता है ना आप लोगों को? Transitivity. What is transitivity? Transitivity. 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 इंडिफरेंस कर्व में है भाई, रिवील प्रेफरेंस में भी. when you prefer A to B and B to C, then you prefer A to C. This is transitivity. समझ में आया क्या बोला? A to B, B to C, and then you prefer A to C. So choices are transitive and consistent. So I'm going to stop here now, क्योंकि इसके आगे आप डायग्राम है which I will be explaining in the next class. 3-4 इंडिफरेंस कर्व का, पॉसिबिलिटी कर्व का, इन सब का डायग्राम है, और कंस्ट्रेंट ब्लिस. I will explain it to you all this in the next class. For now, it's a social welfare function in front of you. Your job is to read a difference between welfare and social welfare function. Just jot down a couple of points. Between a Pareto optimality, that is a welfare, old welfare, new welfare, social welfare, ये सारे concepts को अपने दिमाग में clear कर लीजिए. ये सारी चीजें आपको clearly पता होनी चाहिए if you want to do anything in economics in future. These are the must. Okay. I'm going to stop now. Any